Welcome to Justina's Cantina.
What's up, everybody? It is your boy, it's KonKon, back at it again. Bonus episode to have fun, to have some drinks.
Go fishing, fly the drone, take some sweet videos.
Yeah, you'll see some of this on Instagram, and then you'll know, we're out here. So, listen, you already know, it's your boy, it's KonKon. Next to me is our PR man, the one with the man of many names.
On AOL Instant Messenger, I am Bafflebox16, still active.
Still active. Listen, the status is online, okay? Sitting directly across from me. Listen, you've heard him before. He's been there. Our man from Canada, Maple Syrup
Our
himself.
first $10,000 sponsor, number one tier reward.
We legit had somebody like, hey, did you really get like $10,000? And we're like, no.
Canadian.
No.
I mean,
well, Canadian money. That's like 15
transfer it
grand,
over.
you know. But James himself is here again.
Hey guys, I'm glad to be here, enjoying my beer.
So we're going to do a bonus episode on retro games, and then we also have a new guest today, and that is going to be
Lost Boy 08 on Xbox Live, aka Josh.
Oh, Josh is here, and also we have
The Casual Kid, and Jordan is the real name.
So
Jordan
guys,
Gripp.
we are a Cantina podcast, as you already know. So we're going to head into the Cantina right now.
Welcome to KonKon's Cantina. What are you having? But remember, no droids.
Guys, today I am drinking all of the things that people look down upon. But if they look down upon it, they are wrong, because Natter Days are for the boys. I am drinking a natural light Natter Day. It is amazing. It is great for the beach.
It is the best bang for the buck ever.
I don't care. I'm not at the pool. We're day drinking right now. We're on vacation. So you got to have something that's light. Listen, the Buffalo Trace, the good bourbons, that's coming out later. John is going to bust out a complete bottle of Jaeger. Listen, we're still out there. No, not this. Okay, it'll happen. Don't worry. It'll come from somewhere. I don't know. It's like John just giving out Jaegers. But Natter Day, that's what I'm drinking. Justin, what are you drinking?
I am drinking, Publix had a BOGO on Goose Island. So the one that I'm drinking right now is one of my favorite types of beers. It's a hazy IPA. This one has a mango and a cinnamon note finish, and it's probably one of my favorite things. Do not let it get warm, though. It has to be consumed ice cold.
For those who don't know, Publix is like our premier grocery store. It's like Kroger.
Seller of subs.
Yeah, seller of subs. The best sub you'll ever had. No contest. Don't at me. So, James, what are you drinking?
An ice cold Yingling, running through my veins. It's
Reference to Anakin, Killer of Yinglings.
Ah, yes,
so
the
good.
Killer of Yingling, James Platt.
So good.
Josh, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking 1792 bourbon. It is the foolproof version, which is 125 proof, and I was very happy to acquire it at half the normal cost.
Tell us the story. How did you end up getting a $60 bottle for like $29?
Just walk into the seediest Apopka liquor store you can think of, and it might be mismarked.
Listen, everybody talking stuff about Apopka, coming through with the discount liquor.
Discount liquor, free cancer.
Can't complain.
Listen, if I got to get it early, at least I got my bourbon cheap.
Can't go wrong with cheap
Because I
bourbon.
ain't going to pay for the health care to take care of the cancer, so I might as well save my money somewhere. All right, let's be honest.
Jordan Gripp, what are you drinking?
Casual Kid.
I am drinking Benchmark 8. It is a bourbon that is by Buffalo Trace.
Oh.
It is in a plastic bottle. It is $18 for a handle, and it is one of the most economic whiskeys that you can get.
Listen, we're out here camping. You got to have something that's good.
Jordan has
so
been
good.
drinking that Benchmark for a couple years, and he has sold me on it.
We're on vacation, so you can't bring the high dollar handles. We're bringing the stuff that we like that gets
Well,
us
we can.
good for the money.
We just would not
believe
spend that money very
his
frivolously.
blood type is now benchmark, which
Benchmark negative.
oh my god.
He's
I think it's a universal
He's a
blood
Benchmark
type.
negative.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's the level. Are you benchmark? Yes, I am. I got you. All right. Well, guys, like I said, we're going to be talking about retro gaming today. So, I didn't exactly get into the retro gaming. I'm the youngest here.
What was the first system that you bought?
I wasn't actually allowed video games.
Really?
Yeah.
Where'd you start then? You had to start somewhere.
I did still start with a Super Nintendo, but it wasn't until I was about 10 years old. So 2002.
Whoa. well into the GameCube.
Well, actually, hey, let me rephrase that because
I got married
We
in
are
2003.
I got married in 2004.
Oh my
I was
God.
in Paris puking while he had his 2-year-old system.
Well, we are going to talk about GameCubes, and I forgot. I did have the OG Game Boy, okay, and I did have a Game Boy Color, so I guess those count too. So,
No, GameCubes totally count.
but some of the things that we're going to go over for the agenda of this bonus episode, we are going to go over our favorite game system of all time. We are then going to break into the Nintendo. We are also going to break into the Super Nintendo and Genesis because they are of the same generation. We will then talk about the Nintendo 64 that pretty much everybody has ever had. We'll also talk about the PlayStation 1, Dreamcast. We will talk about the stand-up arcade generation, GameCube, PlayStation 2, and Xbox is where we will end. We will not be going past that because anything past, PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, that's no longer retro gaming anymore. So to kick it off,
some people could argue GameCube, PS2, Xbox, but I want to include them because there's too many good memories.
That's really where the home console gaming started taking a whole new meaning. I mean, even PC gaming started falling by the wayside at that point. People weren't
PC
exactly
gaming master race. Never talk bad about them.
Do you even have a built PC right now?
No, I don't.
Okay. Glossing over that then. Favorite console. We'll just do round robin of favorite console. I can go first, then we can follow up with Justin. My favorite console, which isn't on this list that we're going to talk about, but it's still my favorite console, Xbox 360.
Well, that just totally violated the rules of what we
It
just went
did,
over.
but hey, listen. Okay, if I have to choose retro, Super Nintendo.
Okay, Super Nintendo's a good choice.
Can we
Off
ask
of the-
why though?
Yeah.
Can we follow up with a why question?
That was the first time where I had a console that hooked up to the TV, so I wasn't quote allowed video games. But the first console that I had was a Super Nintendo. That was the first one that I was allowed. I was like, hey, this is old. Even Xbox was out at that time, but even while Xbox and PlayStation 1 being out, wasn't allowed to have either. But Super Nintendo was the first one that I got.
NES was the first system I had, and it's probably my most memorable. I remember my RF switch, which you had to turn to channel 3 and then press in the giant clicking button to turn the system so it would actually be red on the TV. I'm not going to pick that as my favorite just because original PlayStation, I think that I had the absolute most memories of pure joy and fun and amount of games and memory cards failing on me and making me want to break the system in half. Then learning that I can also hack the system and burn games opened up an entire new world of deviousness for me. PlayStation for sure. James?
My first system was a VIC-20, so I'm aging myself.
A VIC-20? Who made that?
Games were on cassette tape. Yeah,
This is like Atari
drink that
2600 time, or is this like before that?
Before that, drink that in. Woo. But my favorite system was N64.
Oh, I heard them drink that in.
Atari 2600 is a good choice.
Well,
Pitfall.
the VIC-20 to me was awesome. There wasn't a lot of memory on the cassettes because obviously they can only hold so much.
Man.
But you had like
Who made the VIC-20?
I don't even know.
Vic.
Magicians,
Michael Vick.
wizards,
Michael Vick,
wizards of the
before he
North.
got into the dogfighting game, made the VIC-20.
Yeah,
But
you know.
N64 was still my favorite. When I first got my N64, I got Clay Fighters 63 and a third, got NWO versus WCW wrestling, and that was like an all-out brawl 4-player. I remember going as a teenager to parties, and I'm like, hey, I just brought this system. Do you guys want to play? And the girls at the party were like,
OG
yeah,
Smash Brothers, too.
It was
Hey,
original.
listen, we're taking content out of the rest of the episode. We're gonna
That's
get
all right.
there, okay? We're getting to N64. We're getting to that. All right, guys.
Well, that was my favorite. I thought we were talking about favorites,
Justin, listen, bushel basket, bushel.
Anyways, that was it.
Basket.
N64. Clay
Josh,
Fighter 63
what
and a third.
is your favorite console?
My favorite console is the PlayStation 2.
Wait, PlayStation 2. Remember?
No, we're stopping at PSX.
We're stopping at PSX.
for retro.
Yep. So
I'd have to
PlayStation
say
1 and below.
Super Nintendo then.
Yep.
So I will agree with you, Connor.
Yeah.
Super Metroid, one of the best games I've ever played. My first console that I ever had was the Commodore 64. Of course, I was also not allowed to have many systems similar to you when I was younger. So the first system my parents bought me was a Nintendo 64.
Okay.
I have a lot of good memories of that too. But the first one that I bought myself was the PlayStation 2.
Josh is the biggest Metroid fan that I personally know. Like that's his jam. That's his game. Like he is like the preacher of all Metroid. Like you have to play this.
I actually hadn't played Metroid until Nintendo released the Super Nintendo with the Mini, and it came with Contra 2, and it had Metroid. It had about 26 games on it. That was the first time I actually played Metroid. I got about 50% through the game. Game's hard.
It
is
created
hella
an
hard.
entire style of game, a Metroidvania. Like that's one of my favorite styles of games to play.
That's also my first memory of like speed running was Metroid. Like the first time I discovered speed running, a cousin of mine was playing Mega Man 3, and he was speed running that game. And when I looked up speed running, Mega Man didn't come up, but Metroid did, and it was people speed running Metroid.
When they re-released the first Metroid game as Zero Missions on the Game Boy Advance, it was ridiculous. Like, that is a much better way to play, I have to say, even than the original.
See, I told you other people would talk about Game Boy.
I did not want to talk about Game Boy.
Okay, well, Game Boy's got to be included.
Okay.
In this case, yes, because
Yeah.
that and Metroid Fusion were just phenomenal.
I feel like
exactly.
2D Metroid.
Yeah.
For the win.
The Game Boys to me blend so much together between the individual systems that it's hard for me to tell them apart.
Well, and that's part of the problem is like Nintendo competed against themselves with mobile consoling and home consoling. I mean, how many times have we re-released Mario on 6 different platforms
Thank
by
God
the same
for the
company?
Switch.
Yeah, exactly. Jordan?
It'd have to be the Super Nintendo as well.
Yeah.
Simply because the catalog of games, there's so many games on there that I really, really enjoyed. I still love going back and playing some of those games. It's
And thankfully our Switch, we just got 25 games for free, and we didn't have to rebuy some of those Super Nintendo
Jordan
games.
is also one of the few people that I know that like actually OG played all the Final Fantasies like
Yeah.
on SNES as they were coming out, not went back to them as re-releases.
So when they got re-released on Game Boy Advance, I had them on Game Boy SP and DS, and I played 2, 3, and I think those were the only ones that got re-released.
Yeah, they got re-released as 4 and 6 because in America, because of weirdness, it was Final Fantasy 2 and Final Fantasy 3 when it was actually 4 and 6.
Okay.
And so, but yeah, those games, I still go back and play those
Yeah.
games because they are so much fun, and I really do enjoy them. And there's even more games on there like we'll be talking about soon that just created so many great memories.
Yeah. And with that being said, we are now going to move on to Nintendo. The first home
NES.
console, NES. So for me, listen, I'm sorry. If this is yours, I'm taking it. Because it's just, in my opinion, it's only been recreated in stand-up arcades, and it still wasn't even that good. Duck Hunt.
Oh my God, you took mine.
Duck Hunt.
Yes.
What else? I
That
mean,
is-
original Mario was still
It
good.
came with Mario 2 and it came with Duck Hunt on the same cartridge.
How, and I've never actually done the research to understand how the technology with the gun controller was working.
I felt like I was like being so evil when I would like point like 1 inch away from my tube TV, like following that duck and shoot
I think it worked IR, like infrared, where it shot the laser on and it recognized. But did you guys also know that the 2-player controller for Duck Hunt
You can control the
ducks?
Yeah.
No.
I learned that
Mind
later in
blown.
life.
All I
Mind
know is my first introduction to cosplay was me cutting the gun controller because I needed a gun for my holster.
And got arrested.
And my Duck Hunt never worked again, obviously, because I cut that gun and I needed a holster, and I was Indiana Jones and all these things. And anyway. So Duck Hunt
since
was
you
yours
said
too?
that, yeah, I was gonna say Duck Hunt, but since you said that, Mario World, it was not Super because it was not into the Super Nintendo area. Mario World 3 was probably
Wait, no, that's Super Nintendo.
no,
No,
what?
that's
No.
Is
Super
that
Mario
NES?
Brothers
It was
3.
the yellow. It
Oh,
was
yeah,
the
yeah,
yellow
yeah. Okay,
cartridge.
Raccoon Tail.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
That I remember playing that because there was no save, so you would literally have to leave that system on.
That's the
forever.
hardest Mario ever. And Trent Wells,
Uh-huh.
he, that is his favorite Mario. And I remember when we were living together, he had his Wii, and we were playing Super Mario 3, and it was ridiculously hard.
So yeah, so that system like had no save. My dad and I would play both that and Zelda. Like we had like a full like computer printer paper printout of each world. Like one world was a sheet of paper, so we would know where we were in Zelda. between that and Mario Party, where we would leave it on for like 72 hours because we were like working our way into like the worlds that we had never reached. That was like such an awesome memory.
Consoles aren't made like that anymore.
Dude, you
can't leave this stuff
they
on
weren't
for that
so
long.
divisive where like you had to like be good or you're done. Like
Yeah.
there was no continue.
Yeah. James?
Can we talk about how difficult this is to pinpoint it to one game?
It's hard. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I think it's easier. It's easier for like me. Like I said, this wasn't my generation, but yeah, I can see how it's still
okay,
hard.
so if we're going from a save point, Excite Bike. When you
Oh,
make
yes.
your own level and you literally have to leave the house and your parents are like, we're leaving, and you're like, you hit save and you're like, all right, buddy, I'm gonna come back. I'm not leaving you.
Listen,
Please God, just save this whole track. But anything above and beyond that, beyond save points, Battle of Olympus was one of the hardest NES games I've ever played. And this is a game that's like
I don't think I played that.
Yeah, I
it's
haven't
so
played it either.
obscure. It's like an off-brand game, but the levels were so difficult. Like remember the backgrounds of NES where they were like super bit, and you couldn't really decipher the backgrounds all that well. Well, there'd be some tree just randomly you press up, and that's a secret passage. It was one of the hardest games I've ever played. But that being said, across the board, Double Dragon 2 is always going to be OG favorite, and that's I can't go from that. That's my favorite.
Original Nintendo. I didn't have one. I played some at my friend's house. Duck Hunt was definitely a big thing for me.
Because of guns as a child.
You're American.
Everybody
All
knows.
the guns.
How dare you?
I
I'm
remember
Canadian.
playing
I'm
original
offended.
Metroid. I remember being hard because, again, absence of save points. But F-Zero was one that I played a lot on there.
Good call. Yeah. F-Zero. Do you know that I was born in 85. I didn't get my first gaming system. I got an NES as my OG system, but it was because my parents wouldn't let me have a Super Nintendo, which had just came out, so they like shame gave me an NES, and I was gloriously happy with it. Jordan, what's your favorite NES game?
So this was also very hard, simply because there are a lot of great games. But one of the ones that came to mind for me was Super Mario Brothers 3. I played that a billion times. But, and this is going to sound weird, but Tecmo Super Bowl for NES
Just
was
pull a
probably
Hail
still
Mary
today
and you win.
my favorite sports game ever to play.
I have a hard time believing that because you're wearing a Dallas Cowboys hat.
Cowboys were good in that game, son.
Jordan is the most
That's dating the
hardcore
game
Dallas
right there.
Cowboys fan ever.
Dude, Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman. Michael
Listen, hey,
Irvin.
I had to take the jab while I could.
It's available on the Switch right now.
Yeah, I know.
You can download.
It was just such a simple game because, on offense and defense, you saw the same plays.
Yeah.
And if you called the same plays as the offense, you would get a sack or you'd be able to stop the play immediately.
If you just pull a Hail Mary, you immediately guaranteed almost, unless they countered that, like that's a touchdown in that game.
Yeah, but it was such a simple game to play, and unless you were a terrible, terrible team, most teams were viable. So it just had so much replay value. It even had a season system set into the game, so you could actually play a full season as a team. So that was incredible for the
And
time.
that was definitely a lot of these new sports games we have these season implements. So that was probably the first.
Yeah, that's the first of its time.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, Super Nintendo and Genesis.
Oof.
Now, I'm going to throw something out there that maybe you have or haven't played. Do any of you remember the Jurassic Park game for Super Nintendo? You could upgrade your gun. It was obviously a side-scroller, and you were
I don't remember
escaping
that.
level by level, shooting the bosses. The boss fights were giant T-Rexes or Triceratops. That is my favorite Super Nintendo game. Super underrated. It reminded me of Galaga because you would upgrade your gun, and it would do different spray patterns and different different bullet
It's almost like
things
the
and-
Super Star Wars.
Oh, dude, that's Jurassic Park, Super Nintendo. That was my favorite.
Man, so I'm gonna do something a little different. I'm not gonna do Sega Genesis. I'm gonna do the Sega Genesis 32X, which was an upgrade that you had to plug into your Sega Genesis. That was supposed to be next level. I bought that. That crap never worked. It just system shut down every time. But there was a Star Wars game that was kind of it was the same era when X-Wing and TIE Fighter came out on PC.
Oh.
And this was like a hybrid of, I can't for the life of me remember what that name of that game was, but it was a space combat, just like X-wing or TIE fighter, but on 32X that I desperately wanted.
1942.
No.
I'm thinking of the World War II gun game,
Yeah, no, that's
fighter game.
No, this came out on 32X along with like there was a new version of Echo the Dolphin in a Knights game.
TIE
But
Fighter?
and there's a humming. There's a
was
weird
it called TIE Fighter?
Well, that came out on PC.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, PC had a X-wing and a TIE fighter game. This game was like kind of like the same as those, and I desperately wanted to play it.
Rebel
but like
Assault
you had
2?
to input like metal clips into your Genesis, and then this plugged into the cartridge holder, and then your game plugged in on top of that. The crap never worked, ever. Like system fail every time. Like I would get to a point.
That's why I never had Sega. Just saying.
Yeah, Sega had good ideas, but they couldn't follow through.
With that being said, yeah, James, what was your favorite?
Let's see. Super Nintendo. Star Fox. Amazing.
Oh yes.
Star Fox. Amazing. Super Street Fighter for Super Nintendo was the best port for me. And I know Connor loves Street Fighter just like I do. This is part of our DNA. I know it's a love.
We're gonna have.
It's a yeah.
We're going back
we're
to
gonna
its
have
OG
to end up.
roots, so we're allowed
I'm
to
the
love
neutral
it now.
party in this. We're gonna have a full-blown Street
We
Fighter
have to have
episode.
a FGC fighting game community episode where we only talk about fighting games. That's
There's so
what's
much
gonna
to
happen.
unpack there
Yeah.
because Street Fighter bred all of the good fighting games, and I'm thinking that Super Nintendo was the first OG port that
Yeah.
that
But
made
Genesis,
it happen.
I'm surprised you didn't pick an MVC.
Oh my God! If I picked up a Genesis, I would have got sucked in that Eternal Champions whirlpool, like that horrible, or Shaq Fu.
Oh, Shaq Fu.
Shaq Fu. Come on, guys.
They had Shaq Fu for Super Nintendo. That's what you're talking about?
I don't identify
had it for
with that
both.
world. I don't want to live in that world.
We lived in Orlando in the era of like Shaq Attack and Shaq Fu. It wasn't as good then as it is now.
There was so much. I mean, Shaq Fu was amazing, but there are so many different fighting games that bred off of Street Fighter that I thought some were great, some were horrible, and that transcends all the way through the different generations of video games. I mean, all the way up through Xboxes. I know we're not going any further than that, but Super Street Fighter.
That was your first fighting game, like memory, where it got good.
That's where I thought I was good.
You were Daigo
I'm like-
Uranahara
I'm like,
yourself.
You're number one in your Canadian
There is
basement.
nobody else right now.
Josh?
So again, I played a lot of these at friend's house because I didn't have it at the time. But I remember some fond memories of playing Super Mario Kart.
Uh-huh.
But again, Super Metroid, definitely my favorite game on the system.
Yeah.
Back with the Metroid.
What console was TMNT on?
remember-
NES.
It-
Or
was
stand-up
it-
arcade. That was like an
There was
arcade, like where
two.
you could all.
There was yeah.
The first one was like Metal Gear Solid, and then the second one was an arcade style.
They also had Turtles in Time for the Super Nintendo.
That has to be the one I'm
yeah,
thinking of.
that was
'cause
the
I played
arcade
it at
port that
Okay.
only supported 2 players, but it was almost a perfect
Yeah.
arcade port.
Got to give a shout out to Sega Lion King platformer
Oh
as well.
my
that
God.
I
Oh,
played
God.
the crap
Hardest
out of that.
game
Hold
ever
on.
made.
I got to make a strict point. Sega's Lion King and Aladdin was greater than Super Nintendo's. They were different games entirely, which was super odd.
I'm on
the
board with
the Sega games were much better.
Wait, why is that?
No, they were 2 totally different games. So if you played Sega Aladdin or Sega Lion King, they were not the same game as Super Nintendo's.
I thought maybe it was like save points because I know save points was like
No,
a
they
huge issue
were
in that
different
game.
developers.
Oh, okay, I got you.
So the one that I had for Super Nintendo was Secret of Mana.
Oh,
And
okay.
they just got a
come
remake
on,
of
Jordan's
it. Yeah.
in with the deep cuts. I
And,
like
uh,
it.
I don't consider it a deep cut. It's actually one of the first video game memories
It's a
I
deep cut.
have.
We've been like Mario, Star
Yeah.
Fox.
But it's Secret of Mana was just such a fun game because it's an action RPG, which for the Super Nintendo was pretty original. But on top of that, it was 3-player compatible.
Okay.
You could have 3 people playing with you at the same time. And one of my earliest memories was me and my dad playing together on the same screen, and it was just so much fun to play. And it's still one of those games. Again, I go back to it
yeah.
constantly, and it had such a great like leveling system, and just there was just so much fun to do.
Of Mana.
I know it's gonna be so much fun.
That brings us to Nintendo 64.
Ooh, I got mine immediately.
Now, mine, some people might consider it a deep cut. Pokemon Coliseum.
You liked that?
Dude, I'll tell you why. What?
Pokemon Stadium, right?
Yeah,
Coliseum.
sorry. Stadium. The first Pokemon Stadium, yeah.
Did not
Coliseum
like
was
that
GameCube.
game. That game was dumb.
Yeah, so Pokemon
Take a picture.
Stadium. So the way that we made that game interesting, not only did they kind of rip the Super Mario Party thing where you had all these mini games with Pokemon, which was amazing. The other thing they did is we would only pick one type of Pokemon to play. So when we would pick our teams to make it more interesting, we'd be like, okay, I'm going to pick, electric, or I'm going to pick dragon. Like, we would each pick the type of Pokemon in our head, and we could only comprise our team of that type Pokemon. So we didn't play at a competitive level. We only played in, like, if you chose fire and I happen to choose water, it's like, GG, dude, like, it's done. You're over. But, Justin?
My game is cut and dry, very simple because of one specific thing. 1080 snowboarding.
You son of a.
Freaking done.
Everybody.
Justin, I'm literally gonna kill you.
Everybody.
I'm from Canada. I'm sitting there.
I remember standing in the electronics department holding a 64 controller that literally had the joystick ground to dust because everybody stood in line. Like, you could not go to Walmart without standing in a line of 5 people.
Beans is how everybody's favorite game besides me is Snowboarder 1064.
1080 snowboarding.
1080, whatever.
No, actually, I've never played 1064. How was it?
It was 14 times better. We're just going with the math. James, tell us why that was your favorite.
I don't know. I'm so upset right now.
Ditto.
Okay, first of all, 1080 snowboarding.
So good.
In Canada, I felt connected with Ricky Winterbourne. And the fact that you just took it from me and Ricky, I'm really upset right now.
Do you know how many hours of my life I spent in an electronics department of Walmart waiting past like 4 other kids to get that hard plastic, like slightly stretchy controller that I could just
Why don't
grind
they
the
make
joystick
casts
away?
out of that material? That is the toughest material ever. Any sort of in-shopping home thing that controller was connected to was stronger than steel.
But those joysticks were notoriously ground to smithereens.
The fact that you just told me it was so difficult makes me feel better. Like, I feel better that it was so difficult for you to play this. But 1080 snowboarding was amazing.
Josh.
God, I hate you, Justin.
So the very first system that my parents actually bought me was a Nintendo 64. They asked me if I could get one game, what would it be? 1080 snowboarding.
They did not get it for you, did they?
100% did. And even sweeter that I broke my legs skateboarding a few weeks later and spent
all the time
ultimate hours on the couch playing that, Star Wars Pod Racer, and Lego Racer.
Oh, how did I forget about the Star
Now
Wars
this is pod racing!
Oh my goodness. I don't know how I forgot about that. Oh my goodness. Jordan.
So a little backstory with this one. Growing up, we didn't go out to go see movies a lot. What we did was we went to Blockbuster and we rented video games, and the entire family played. So I remember the day that my parents got up super early in the morning to go out and get the first copy they could of The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. And we played that, weirdly enough, as a family. So one person would control it, everybody would watch and play, and yeah, it was such a fun game. It still is fun. I rebought it probably about 3 or 4 times at this point.
Ocarina of Time is one that I've not played from start to finish.
Really?
I got a deep cut that maybe some of you do or don't remember. Jordan's going to have something to say about this. Madden Blitz?
Oh, Blitz.
Oh, yeah. Blitz was the
Blitz
NBA
for
Jam
64?
of football.
Yeah. That was really good.
Yeah,
So
that's a great one.
moving on to our next console for our retro gaming, we are going straight into PlayStation 1.
Oof,
So
I immediately know exactly what I'm going to say.
PlayStation and
Shaq.
Let's reverse our order because
okay,
somebody
let's
else
reverse
has
the order.
it. Yeah.
Let's reverse the order. So let's go Jordan first. We're going to reverse the order on this one. So PlayStation 1.
I didn't own a PlayStation 1 ever. But
Everybody has like a childhood story of the system their parents wouldn't buy them.
The cool thing about the PlayStation 1, though, is this was still a little bit during the stand-up arcade time. So there's a lot of my stand-up arcade and my PlayStation 1 kind of go hand in hand because
Same.
they were for both consoles. But Jordan,
so
Mine goes along with Pizza Hut.
probably still one of my funnest games I love to play on there. And I'm a sucker for Japanese RPGs. So Final Fantasy VII,
Yeah,
I
it's
played
hard not to.
I played
8
the
is
crap
greater
out of
than
that
7.
thing, and I still have my copy. And I try to
It'll
load
be
it
worth
anytime
something
I can.
someday.
Yeah, it was just such a fun game, and it's so long, and it had so much in it that it was just so much fun to play. So
Jordan, I need to
yeah.
argue with you.
You're going to say Final Fantasy VIII, aren't you?
8
Oh,
Squall is
no.
a better lead character.
No.
I still
Jeebus.
have my black label like PlayStation, like not the green greatest hits. I have a black
I
label.
will fight you in
copy
the
of that.
comments.
Let's do it.
I love Final Fantasy as well. I played a lot of them, going back to them later though. But the reason I got a PlayStation 1 was for Tony Hawk's Pro
Yep.
Skater 2.
There, dang
I
it.
played
Josh is on my
Josh.
Pizza
balls
Hut
out of
demo
that
disc
game.
life.
Listen,
It made me sell my 64 to get a PlayStation so that I could play that game.
Pizza Hut demo discs made PlayStation like
and
for
with that being
100%.
said, they're about to come out. They're supposedly revamping the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series.
They did
And-
it once and it did not turn out good. Did you
Is
ever
it
play
called
the
Tony
HD?
Walker? Because he needs a walker.
The real skate videos at the end, if you beat with each character.
Rodney Mullen's skate video at the end when you like what?
I
Get it
watched
out.
them
And he,
to
like,
get
get it
jazzed up to go skate.
James, favorite PlayStation?
Street Fighter, Dream Warriors.
Okay.
Street
It's like
Fighter
the-
Dream Warriors.
Yeah, that was.
I do
my
not know what
favorite.
this is.
It's like the original EX series. Just before it, Street Fighter EX2, EX1, which is amazing. There was a
Good
lot
call,
of different
man.
ports, but that one to me was my favorite because the graphic style changed, the music changed, the whole EX style changed for supers,
Mm-hmm.
and it was absolutely amazing. And it was the only thing in the arcade that you could shut somebody down with and kind of stare them down without.
For me, without a doubt, immediate 100%, the best PlayStation game, which you've all chosen incorrectly because it is Metal
Jedi
Gear
Masters.
Solid. Ooh, hold on. Now you just made me think.
Jedi
Masters of Terrascasi. I do like that game.
Yeah, the only and best Star Wars fighting
Street Fighter
game.
the movie.
That game was so good. But for me, it's Metal Gear Solid. That game blew my mind. Like, I got that on a Pizza Hut demo disc, which freaking shout out to Pizza Hut for creating that entire
Pizza
thing.
Hut, make a comeback.
Is Solid Snake what you do in the morning?
Yeah, I do that. Yeah.
You know,
it's a stinky Solid
you know what's
Snake.
funny is none of us for N64 chose GoldenEye. Can we
I
like
never, honestly, okay, I didn't
It
talk
was a
about
horrible
this.
shooter.
I
we
never-
loved it because it was the first 4-person multiplayer, but it was a horrible shooter.
Yeah.
Anytime you pick a security guard gun, shooting through a metal door, and you can kill somebody when they're hiding, I mean, it's a pretty terrible platform, but it was a lot of fun.
Listen,
and
I
if you
was-
picked
that-
Oddjob, you were just a jerk.
talk about Metal Gear Solid.
Do it.
But Josh has something to say.
Even though my favorite game was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater,
Mm-hmm.
shout out to Metal Gear because it is the best game on PlayStation. And
Yes.
shout out to Pizza Hut and Book It and
Dude.
demo discs. I read so many
Book It.
books so that I could get free pizza and demo discs.
Fist bump to book it.
All the
Oh
fist
my
bumps.
god, book it.
So
Shoutouts are a thing.
for my PlayStation 1, and you guys might have to correct me because I can't remember. Dreamcast is our next console, and I can't remember if this was Dreamcast or if it was PlayStation.
It may have been both.
SSX Tricky.
That was Dreamcast.
To
Was
me,
it
that was
Dreamcast?
GameCube.
Dreamcast
No,
was
well, not
always
tricky.
PS2.
But the first
PS2.
one,
Not tricky. SSX OG.
yeah, but that was wasn't it first on PlayStation?
No,
No.
no. SSX was on Dreamcast.
Okay, if it's Dreamcast only, and I can't remember the exact name, there was a motocross series that was in PlayStation 1. Oh, I forgot about Crazy Taxi, but I didn't. I can't remember the exact name of the motocross game, but for PlayStation 1, I played the ever living nonsense out of it. But anyway, with that being
That's
said,
your best PlayStation memory?
I didn't have a PlayStation.
It's not Gran Turismo.
What?
Like we all bypassed.
Listen,
Gran
listen.
Turismo.
We're not going to talk about Gran Turismo.
Dino
That'll
Crisis.
be in KonKon's rants. That'll be a whole nother
Listen,
episode.
None of us can afford that Subaru that we all wanted in that game.
Anyway,
Okay.
Dreamcast.
Dreamcast.
Completely
The
ahead of its
So
time.
far ahead of its time that
There's
they're
only one game.
Controller
built-in 56K modem into the system,
There's only one
memory cards that
each
slid
controller,
into the controller.
312 megabyte save file into the controller. You could give your buddy your little digital
Mhm.
Tamagotchi,
My Tamagotchi.
little that
It's
game.
not my favorite though.
Okay,
Rival Schools is better than
but that
Rival
game
Rumble.
is underrated as anything. That's my favorite.
It was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
It was.
The graphics. The
Rival
sound,
Schools
everything.
is definitely a better fighting game. It actually had its full-on standalone arcade game. Ready to Rumble was worthless and didn't have it. I'm also going to say as my number one Dreamcast game, Shenmue. Like Shenmue 1 and 2, like
James is writhing in
I'm
pain.
so thankful you said Shenmue. I mean, if you took my comment, I was going to be so mad. But thank you.
what was it? Power Stone also.
Yeah.
Power Stone's
Dude, there were
legit.
so many good games. That system was just so good, and it was too far in advance. Like nobody understood it.
Well, you know it's a good system when, as soon as it failed, immediately all the games were ported to other systems.
Exactly.
Like, those games still went on and lived on.
Isn't there a story about Dreamcast being the pioneer of the new generation? It was the next generation of console, and Microsoft bought the technology to make the Xbox.
Right. You look at the controller for the original Xbox controller,
It
you
is
look at the
literally
Dreamcast
the
controller.
same.
it's the
They
Yeah.
they were the first people to fully embrace like online multiplayer. Like they before everybody had broadband, they put a modem into the system so you could play multiplayer.
They were 100% a victim of the time they came out.
Yep.
They came out mid-cycle, and that was their downfall.
I
Games were
still bought that.
expensive too. Like that was
Also-
the first big jump we saw
I need to
in.
stop everybody. Do you remember the game Seaman, which was a giant
Yes.
fish?
Can you please spell that,
That had-
for everyone?
It had
Use that in a sentence,
like the
please.
storefront
I
of
raised my
every.
semen.
This was before GameStop. This was Electronics Boutique. They had like a giant, like it was you had a live capture camera with a bass with your face on it, and it was called Seaman.
That sounds so up Anders' alley. I don't know what else.
Bring back Seaman. SEA. Man.
James' favorite game?
Okay, so on
Shout out to
Dreamcast,
Grand Tour.
the only game that came out to Dreamcast for me was Marvel vs. Capcom 2. The best port.
Finally.
Can we just talk
Oh
about
my
this
God.
game for the
I've had
next
that game
2.5
on
hours?
every system available.
Everyone can be quiet. Don't
That could
worry.
be a bonus episode.
On its own,
If you guys want to go
James,
to the
you picked the
bathroom,
best-
I've got this.
James, you picked the best game.
This is by far the best fighting game.
Was that its debut on?
It debuted
ca-
on Dreamcast and PlayStation 2 because I had it on both.
OG
Okay.
and arcade, but the best port was Dreamcast.
It was
Yeah.
better on there.
It came out on
Did
Xbox.
Dreamcast have its own fighting stick?
No.
I don't remember.
I
Not
never
that-
had a
not
fighting
that I
stick
bought.
for it, but their controller was actually decent for fighting games.
You could play it claw, so you can grip it with your left hand and put your right hand on the top, and fully envelop in the game. So the controller wasn't the problem. I think support for the whole system in general is what failed the Dreamcast. But
Yeah.
MVC2 on Dreamcast was the absolute best port of that game.
Yeah.
MVC2, definitely the pinnacle of fighting games, still holds up to this day.
I challenge anyone right now.
James,
Spent good memories of Power Stone with my friends, but I gotta give it to Soul Calibur on the
Ooh,
Dreamcast.
yes.
I am a big Soul Calibur fan, more so with 2 than 1, but I played a lot of 1 on Dreamcast.
they had
this
that was
is
the
why-
first with the character
You
creator.
Freudian slipped GameCube
This is
because
why
Zelda
we-
was on it. I know it.
This is
Spawn
why we
was
need
on
to have
Xbox.
just a FGC episode.
We need
You know
to
what I
do
mean?
it.
Yeah, just a fighting game episode. Jordan?
So, sticking with my theme of loving RPGs, Phantasy Star Online.
Yes.
Phantasy Star
Yeah,
Online.
that was the first online. Oh my god.
Yeah, it was the
Got
first
recasted
console.
to Xbox 360, by the way.
Also GameCube and a ton of other systems. It was just so much fun to play an MMO. Even if you didn't play it on the MMO, you still got the full game to play offline. And on top of that, it was also, again, another multiplayer game. You could actually play split screen on this same game, and it was just a friggin' blast to play. It had over 100 level cap.
Yeah.
Like I think it was like a 200-300 level cap. So you could play that game for forever. So
Yeah, it
I
was
had so
awesome.
much fun
That
with
game blew me away when it came out.
Quick
Yeah.
question: Do you guys think KOTOR would have happened without games like Phantasy Star Online paving the way for it? You know what I
No.
mean? Do you think they're in the same lineage of?
Well, like
Well,
I said,
they're-
there's a direct correlation between Dreamcast and Microsoft, and Knights of the Old Republic first came out on Microsoft.
Okay.
I have to do some more research. But with that being said, our next console, GameCube. Back to Nintendo. It almost seems like the circle keeps going around. For me, this is a deep cut. Not a shocker.
GameCube.
Django Fett, Bounty Hunter. Bounty hunting is a complicated profession. That game,
That
you got
game
the Camino
was very
poison
good.
dart, you had the flamethrower, and just like our man in The Mandalorian, I used my flamethrower on everything. You could totally go Snake, and you could be stealthy, you could hit people with your poison dart. Forget it. I ran around shooting everything, hitting people with my flamethrower. That game was so good. You would pick up the bounties, you would go through the story level. There's tons of honorable mentions for GameCube, but for me, it was Star Wars, Jango Fett Bounty Hunter. That was my favorite.
That game was amazing. I'm gonna hurt everybody's feeling because I know they're gonna say it.
Because you're going to say Pikmin.
No,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I'm literally gonna jump out of my seat.
I'm not gonna say
Okay,
Pikmin.
thank God.
The absolute best game, which is still played competitively, Smash Brothers Brawl.
Oh,
You mean Melee, my
Melee,
dude.
sorry.
Oh, my
OG.
goodness.
Whatever.
So
Come
many
on, they're the
FGC
same.
people just rolled in their grave right now.
There's Smash Brothers. Smash
good.
Brothers.
Shake them up, Justin. Shake
Yeah,
'em up.
Melee
Justin,
is by
wrong
far.
again.
Listen, Melee, it's amazing.
Smash Brothers.
My favorite thing about Melee is Nintendo
Melee.
never intended
Brawl.
for that game
Who said Brawl?
to be competitive. And with the micro stepping and the flashing and the combo system in that game, in FGC people, fighting game community will sometimes say that it is not part of the fighting game community. They like to pick on Smash players, but the skill level for that game, there is no beginning or intermediate level. The skill cap for that game of getting to the upper echelons of being good at that game is extremely ridiculous.
It's based on the character. It's based on
Yeah, there's so much about it. So I'll totally agree
So
with that.
this is one quick side thing. I have never owned a Nintendo 64 nor a GameCube and only played it at my friends' houses.
Why are you here?
You know
Dude,
what my favorite thing about the GameCube was? Is it had the handle on the back. So when I was bringing it to my buddy's house, like I could just carry it. Nobody's ever done that again.
Like, I
Like
played
they
them.
knew.
I played them all the time,
you
but
need to
I
bring it as
only
an
played at my
accessory.
friends'
Yeah.
houses. I never
They
owned one.
bring it back. James' favorite GameCube
Okay.
game.
So, you touched on it. Tricky is my favorite snowboarding game. But-
It's tricky.
But
It's
I like
tricky.
It's tricky.
Go rock it, right, that's tricky.
But then my wife also really got into video games with the GameCube, which we connected, and Pikmin 1 and 2 was absolutely amazing.
It was
amazing. Mandy loved it, and the snowboarding game was awesome. So we kind of fought back and forth about.
It was
who would get-
SSX Tricky 3.
I think it
for-
was this.
It had gone deep, and
No, I think it was the second one because the third one was Dark Ascent that came out on Xbox.
That game is super underrated as even a racing game because in honesty, it wasn't about freestyle snowboarding points. It was a racing game. You were racing against other snowboarders to get to the bottom of the mountain. You know
True.
what I mean?
I think that game did a good job of bringing single player and beating your previous score with good soundtrack, and then the online stuff. So between Tricky and Pikmin, those were both amazing games. And also honorable mention, Luigi's Mansion. OG Luigi's Mansion was, or whatever, Haunted Mansion thing was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, Josh.
So many good experiences on GameCube. I really enjoyed that
Please say
system.
Metroid.
Well, that's the thing. I prefer the 2D ones. The Prime games were great. But Skies of Arcadia had a lot of fun with that.
Yes.
RE4, great, amazing initial experience.
Yes. RE4 with the Wavebird, where was the first time you had like a wireless controller that worked good. That was an amazing memory.
But my favorite game on GameCube has to be Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. First time it was open world, aside from the very first Zelda game, and it was just a fantastic game. Spent a lot of hours playing that.
Jordan.
I never played that all the way through to
GameCube.
start to finish.
Graphics were
So this was
amazing.
not actually on my list. I didn't see the GameCube on there, so I had to think about this while all of you were talking. And I love all of those selections. The one game, though, that I actually recently got that I really love
Is this your party game that you love?
No.
Oh.
It is
My
it
Little
is
Pony.
SNK versus Capcom 2.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I
That-
never played many fighting games besides Smash Brothers on GameCube.
Actually, it's the other way around. Capcom versus SNK 2. Yeah.
Okay, you
It-
have my attention.
It's
We
a
can
fantastic game. It combines what's great about Capcom and also what's great about SNK. It's an easy fighter to just pick up and play. It's a game I could probably waste
What's
an
the
entire
name of the dude
day
on
playing.
rollerblades? I like that guy. There's a dude on rollerblades. He's a Capcom guy, not a Street Fighter guy.
You're still on Sega. Is that
No,
not
no, no.
something-
He was on Capcom vs. SNK.
The original.
Yeah, he's on rollerblades. Like, he
Jordan.
rollerblades for you.
The
He's thinking of
customizing
Overwatch. No, I'm just kidding.
all your OG Street Fighter characters was what brought me into that game. Being able to make my own version of Violent Ken and changing the pigment and changing Ken's gi and all that to kind of make it. That to me was the best part about the game. And then the online capability, which I thought was amazing.
Oh yeah.
And with that being said, another breakthrough in gaming at home consoles, the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox.
Arguably the two best eras of games.
And this is where we're going to end on because, in our opinion, it is almost some of the best era for gaming. So we're going to start first with the PlayStation 2. I will go first. If this is yours, I'm sorry. Need for Speed, Most Wanted, Underground.
I hate you.
Well, Need for Speed, Most Wanted, and Underground.
He started out with the 3 Series BMW in that?
Yeah, that's the one on
Yeah.
the cover where it's
Yeah.
the blue and silver. Yeah, that is my favorite. That is when we got such a big part of the customizing our vehicles, and it was kind of more expansive on that open world. You know, we would go around and we would get those missions. For me, I owned a PlayStation 2 late in what I would consider my gaming career, so for me that was the Need for Speed series as a whole. I even had it on Mac before, and it was really good. Justin, what about you for PlayStation?
Just real quick before Justin starts, sorry. The soundtrack for that game was amazing. Underground 2 had all these artists, and they were relevant artists at the time. I remember there was a song, Lost Prophets. It was
NFL Street, Lost Prophets,
well, I mean,
Last
that was
Train
on,
Home,
Well, there was
and Lost Prophets was
well,
the same generation.
Apparently, they were right in that time frame. But that's at least to me, I saw music coming into the genre with gaming, and I'm like, this is like pop culture, folding on itself, which I thought was absolutely amazing.
Josh, what was your favorite PlayStation 2 game?
PlayStation 2 holds a special place in my heart for 2 reasons. One, it was the first system that I actually saved up my own money to go buy, and 2, because of the catalog. There was 800 or 900 games on that system. It was ridiculous.
Just tell us, was it Parappa the Rapper?
Oh, you got me.
Was it 1 or 2? I can't even remember.
I have to say Metal Gear Solid Sons of Liberty.
Yep.
And I know Justin's going to echo this, but that is the best
The
game
start
on
of
the
that
PlayStation
game.
2.
Ugh,
it is
the
amazing.
The submarine tanker scene, like, my God.
I watched it at Justin's house, and it made me want to buy that game. And there was
I'm
many
a-
more great, awesome games on that system.
Solid Snake sold me.
100%.
And I got what you meant. I was mixing the two games. I meant Need for Speed Most Wanted and not Underground 2
okay,
is
got
what I was thinking. Underground 2 obviously was very good. That was the one with the RX-8 on the cover where it's just the wheel. I was thinking of Most Wanted. That's the one with the BMW 3 Series on the cover.
That was the first story-driven.
Yeah, very story-driven, yeah.
Underground for sure. I loved Underground.
Yeah.
In fact, I loved it so much that I thought Justin stole it one day because he left my house and my game was missing. I found it later, but
It wasn't me.
He still moved it.
Quality friends.
Jordan, with that being said, PlayStation 2, before we get into Xbox.
PlayStation 2. There was a lot of games on there, and I went in a rotation. My probably, again, being the sucker for Japanese RPGs I am, it's Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X was just one of those games
Right when I thought of one that nobody had said.
Yeah, no, it was so revolutionary
So
at the
good.
time. It still looks good. You boot up a PlayStation 2, you watch the cutscenes for it.
Even X2
it
looks
still
good.
looks fantastic. So that was a game that I probably sunk way too much time into. So yeah, that would be my pick.
And one kind of like honorable mention, this is one thing that some people tend to forget. I wanted to talk about Xbox 360, but we had to make a cutoff, right?
Yeah.
We had to decide what would be considered retro, and what wouldn't. Definitely PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, once again, was kind of a jump in a generation. And just because we go from one console number to a next doesn't mean that it was a jump in a generation, but definitely from PlayStation 2.
It was an end of an era.
Yeah, for sure. But one thing that's special about PlayStation 2 and Xbox is even though the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 were out, this was still a time where game makers were making games for both systems. Like Star Wars Force Unleashed 2008 was made for Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and PlayStation 2.
I think one of the biggest things that separated them from modern day gaming systems was massive multiplayer. Like, you couldn't like buy a Call of Duty game on PlayStation or Xbox and play it online versus infinite amount of people. That didn't happen. Well, I guess it did happen later a little bit, but with Halo. But that was a definition of like old school versus new school to me.
And with that being said, the generation that you guys are going to be more familiar with than me, stand-up arcade. At this point in the game, stand-up arcades are unfortunately no longer a thing. My favorite memory of a stand-up arcade was going to Ale House in Pine Hills on Highway 50 and playing Tekken 3. I was given quarters and I picked Law every time, and all I wanted to do was backflips, and I just did it against the computer and the arcade mode, and that's all I wanted to do.
Spam those 2 kicks constantly.
Just do
That's
it.
all you need
Do
to
it.
do. Just spam those 2.
You chose wrongly. It's Lei Wulong, and you do like the crouching sweep into the roundhouse kick.
So with that being said, guys, stand-up arcade, favorite memories of stand-up arcade, game or series as a whole, or maybe even, we think of like Dave & Buster's. Even Dave & Buster's still has some stand-up arcade. So, Justin?
For me, my most like primal memory of stand-up arcades was riding my bike about 2 miles down 1792, which is a highway, which for some reason in the 90s my mom let me do. Which
all the way down 1792.
Yeah, that would never happen nowadays.
Yeah,
She loves you. Don't worry.
I would ride to the movie theater to play Marvel vs. Capcom, which we already talked about this game, but like that as a stand-up, separate from a gaming system, was like the most absolute amazing thing. And it turned from going to that movie theater to a food court and like purposely trying to get to know the people that worked in the food court gaming arcade, so they would like open up the machine and like do the 1,000 taps of the button so I could have free credits. And that
the raging demon on the credits.
Oh yeah, dude, learning every like all the hard buttons to press and hold like while you did your character select, like to get the special character assists that you wanted.
That's what was nice about that game. Okay, so MVC, OG MVC was amazing, and that's why I totally understand that.
Dude, Psylocke in MVC 1, Psylocke was the best assist.
Okay, so MVC 2 for me is amazing. I can go through all the Street Fighters and take up all the time today, but MVC 2 is absolutely my favorite. 52 characters, the best of all the amazing jazz music that you can handle.
They're jazz.
And I have a build in my garage happening right now for an arcade machine, and I'm going to do all the fighting games, and I'm so stoked about it.
You got a killer deal on that cabinet. Josh, which is your all-time favorite?
I killed someone for that cabinet.
For me, I'm going to tell you right now, for me and you, Josh, I remember going to Rocky's with you.
Rocky's Replay?
Yeah, Rocky's Replay. What's your most like stand-up arcade game?
Me and you grew up together, so we had the same days, playing MVC at the mall and the food court, getting free credits, and winning
Schmoozing
quarters
people
to get free tacos or going to the movies afterwards. But Rocky's was amazing, and I loved going there, bringing my PlayStation memory card and playing Tekken for.
In the early to late 2000s, Rocky's Replay was this arcade that we had close to us, which they sold $1 chili dogs that were
69 cents.
69-cent chili dogs that were amazing.
You paid for them later, though.
But they
at
also
1 o'clock in the morning,
they
you
brought
paid
so many
everything
like
that you owned in your
Japanese
soul.
stand-up arcade machines that you could not get anywhere else.
Your sister still holds the record for the most chili dogs eaten there.
I have no
I'm sure
argument.
she's proud.
She's my blood.
For me, it's you took mine. Mine was going to be Marvel vs. Capcom, simply because the first real arcade moment I remember is me and my brother getting Cyber Akuma in the arcade. So we spent enough quarters to actually get him and be able to fight him, and I
can't wait to come back tomorrow and him be gone.
pretty much. But the one that I do remember playing a lot, and I had my whole family playing with me, and that's where most of my video game memories come from, was playing the X-Men arcade game, where you could pick
Which
The
one?
4-player?
Children of the Atom?
No, it was the 4-player one. Where
Oh,
you actually
like
could
the
pick,
side-scrolling.
Yeah, the side-scrolling beat 'em up one. it was just a lot of fun growing up. And I remember anytime that was in an arcade, it would be 4 of us crammed together shoulder to shoulder trying to get as far as we could on like $2 worth of quarters, which was nothing. But it was a great time.
Jordan, in Canada, that was called Children of the Apocalypse, which was amazing. And then I came to America, and I'm like, meh. X-Men. Meh.
With that being said, we have reached our final console, the part where we said, listen, this is no longer retro gaming, this is the wrap-up. Microsoft releasing the Xbox. I remember Bill Gates, before Apple...
Bill Gates was a part of this still, yeah.
Yeah, like before Apple were giving its pre-notes and, these big presentations, Microsoft did this with the Xbox. And my favorite Xbox game, Halo 2.
Don't say Halo.
Halo 2.
Thank God you put it 2.
It's Halo 2. I'm sorry. Halo 2 was the absolute birth
Hang 'em high.
Competitive gaming. MLG.
Blood Gulch.
Multiplayer? Like online multiplayer?
Yeah, it was the absolute birth of going to school
DMR.
and just talking crap. This is where kids stopped beating each other up and started beating each other up in online gaming and started cyberbullying. So
You
it
went
finally
to school
took a new...
and talk trash. I
Yeah,
went
exactly.
to work and talk trash.
Hey.
Dude.
But,
I'm old.
for me, Halo 2, I mean, the story mode of... we played Halo and it was good, and the story of this, kind of the space cowboy thing, and then we took on a whole new with the Arbiter, and we got to get a new perspective on what would be considered the enemy, and we got to play both sides of the story. That is almost something that hadn't been in the games, to date, So with that being said, Justin, what was...
So you think your game is divisive as far as, like, we're going to start trash talking. There is no trash talking.
better than... Fusion Frenzy. I knew it.
Are you married?
My God.
Not anymore.
I knew it.
I'll agree with that.
Fusion Frenzy. Like, Mario Party came out. That was all well and good. Fusion Frenzy, like...
The granddaddy. It's not even the granddaddy, but it's still the best mini game ever.
It's so good.
I
Yeah.
played it by myself a week ago, and I got
Zack
mad
Attack.
at myself.
We all
I
have
got
it.
into a fight with myself.
We all have it on Xbox One now because it
game
got
is
released.
so good.
$7. Okay, Natasha, my wife's always been like, "Hey, I want to play something with you." I was like, "Don't worry, I got you." We
Like,
don't play games
hey,
together
do you
anymore.
want to not be married anymore?
Yeah. No divorce needed.
Fusion Frenzy.
Load Fusion Frenzy.
Okay, so OG Xbox, the original Halo for me. We talked about this last night with Linkin Park's Reanimator.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
OG Xbox, you got to play pistols only, hang 'em high.
So start the second level, the Silent Cartographer.
Oh, yeah.
And start track 1 of Reanimation or
Okay.
Reanimator. I think it's Reanimation.
Reanimation is the
for
app,
Linkin
yeah.
Park.
Of
yeah.
Linkin Park, and play all the way through until you get to track 20 with Aaron Lewis. It is an amazing experience. I mean, if you can go back through and work your way through the graphics of OG Xbox, but it is an experience. And
Well-
it'll change the way that you remember Halo and Master Chief and the original origin story of it. So if you can take the time and go do that, it's well worth your time to do it.
So I'm not going to get into the argument of whether Halo 1 or 2 is better, but I
Halo
have
1.
way better memories with Halo 1. I didn't, I just LAN parties, connecting 4 TVs at the same time.
When your Xbox gave you the name of whatever your profile would be based off of whatever programming was built into your Xbox.
You were killed
Hashtag
by
Baby
a
Moses.
girl.
That was Liz's screen name.
A girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
Driving that Warthog, come on, for the first time, driving the Warthog was amazing.
Listen, I'm still more of a fan of the Halo. Halo is obviously amazing, and Halo 2 is obviously amazing, but the Halo 2 for me is just the online aspect.
Capture the flag on Blood Gulch with your buddies was one of the best experiences ever. Hang 'em high, as Justin mentioned, with shotties and pisties only. Ridiculous. I just have so many good memories of that, and I still play that on Master Chief Collection today. It's extremely enjoyable, and that's my fondest memories of the Xbox.
Jordan, Xbox original.
I didn't get an Xbox until Xbox 360 was out, and got it because it was cheap. But the game that I probably played the most was definitely Star Wars Battlefront, the original.
Oh, dude, how did I forget about that?
Battlefront was amazing.
It was the only. It's still one of the only
Better
games
than
that I
the-
actually feel like you're fighting in
Better
a
than the new ones.
full-scale battle.
Yeah.
Absolutely better than the new ones. And that was a game that you played and you wanted to master every single map. It was so much fun.
Do you have an Xbox One or a PlayStation 4?
Right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Have you played the newest
Oh, absolutely.
Battlefront 2?
They're terrible. Like,
The
But
story
when
is
was the
amazing
last
in number
time?
2.
huh?
When was the last time?
I have the original.
When it came out, because
I got the original Star Wars Battlefront for PS4 when it came out. The newer one.
but now we're on Battlefront 2.
I haven't played the Battlefront 2 yet.
So just letting you know,
The story is freaking
the story is
amazing.
canon and it's amazing. And because EA got in so much trouble with their microtransaction thing, they made all of their content free. So we're on like update 8, and only this new one that is like the new movie update you quote have to pay for.
Right.
So it's just been really good.
I will say that just
But the OG domination of Star Wars Battlefront,
yeah,
so
even,
good.
Even Star Wars Battlefront 2, it had a fantastic story. Actually, playing as a battalion, a squad of stormtroopers who were
I
originally
like anything
clones.
that takes you from like a stormtrooper side and not just always being the rebels.
So
Yeah.
yeah, starting from the original Clone Wars, it goes all the way into Return of the Jedi. It was a fantastically fun game.
I know time is of the essence, but this system warrants like a second up. Like, what's your runner-up game quickly?
For Xbox alone,
Yeah, for Xbox alone.
Star Wars, and I can't remember the exact name. It's
Shadows of the Empire.
Shadows of the Empire.
That's not an Xbox game.
It was
KOTOR?
N64 and
Yeah, KOTOR. No, but mine was the one. This was one of the release games for Star Wars. It was the Star Wars Starfighter.
oh yeah,
It
yeah,
had
yeah,
the
yeah.
Naboo.
It had
the
the
game
yellow
was nothing.
the yellow Naboo starfighter
and
on the
all
cover.
it was starfighting, pretty much. That game.
God, bring back starfighting games. Like,
Dude,
why is
yeah.
that the thing that's not happening
And
now?
it's like we talked about Star Fox. That's literally an introduction to that. And then Lucasfilm expanded on it and brought back all of these ships that we love. And it's literally never been done again.
Dude.
We do have a World War II game where it's dogfight-esque, but it's it's
Did
it's
you
just
play?
not the same.
Did you play
Crimson
X-wing and Tie
Skies.
Fighter on PC?
I didn't.
They were so good. They were like amazing, like dogfighting, like space battles
Justin, what's your second runner-up for
Xbox. I said Fusion Frenzy, so my number 2 that I remember playing the most would probably be Shrek.
Did you say Shrek?
I just pulled that up. I don't know.
Okay.
You didn't give me enough heads up, so I just said a game.
Well, guys, with that being said, that was our retro gaming
Nailed
bonus
it.
episode. Ending on Shrek being the best game ever made. No, not really. Listen, hopefully that you guys enjoyed this. Just talking a little bit about our retro games. Hopefully that you were able to pop open a beer or listen to this at work, however you listen to us. And
Do not forget.
tell us about your favorite retro game in our Facebook group. So go to facebook.com, and then in the top right corner you will see our Facebook group. Hit join the discussion. We talk about Star Wars, and we don't just talk about Star Wars, we talk about other games there.
We
So
want your input. Tell us what to talk about, what you want to hear.
with that being said, I was your host, it's KonKon, followed by our PR, the guru, the man himself,
Grandmaster Baker.
and
James.
Bangerang 08 on Yahoo.
oh, okay.
That's
The
Josh
casual
Serrao.
kid.
All
That's
right,
Jordan
guys.
Gripp.
Thanks for that. Bye.
Bye.